We have crowned a champion, as you all know. T just alluded to it. Baylor has won, but would you guys say that that was more good Baylor or bad Gonzaga based off what you saw in that game? T, I'm gonna start with you since you called it.
It was a little bit of both. Gonzaga looked like a team that really hadn't been in a dogfight. We saw that when they played UCLA. UCLA jumped all over them. They was able to pull it out with this magical shot from Suggs. Gave us one of the best college moments of all time. And I think that emotional high really, take a lot out of them. They were happy just to get by UCLA. Baylor was waiting on them. Those three guards at Baylor, man, incredible. Two of them should be going to the league for sure. I think all three should be in the league. But I think it was good Baylor. I think it was more good Baylor. Just a great college basketball team and a great story.
Interesting. All right, Scruff, I see you nodding up there, man. What was your take on that game?
I was actually relatively surprised. That was a pretty reasonable take by T. So yeah, I mean that's pretty accurate. But I'll say it's definitely more about the Zags than Baylor. Baylor's some dogs. I don't want to take anything away from Baylor. There's some dogs, and I mean it's really what it comes down to me is conference play. I mean what you got is a big powerhouse team that beats up on subpar competition in their conference, and you've seen what happens when they got a little challenge. A UCLA, a Pac-12 team came in there and gave them heat right down to the last shot, and it was one of the best shots I've ever seen. But when you get to the biggest game and you got a team like Baylor who's got a whole bunch of dogs, and they went through the Big 12, which in my opinion is the second best conference outside the Big 10 this season. Man, that's more about the Zags, man. You could just see man, they wasn't really ready for that heat that they was bringing because man, they some different kind of dogs over there at Baylor. So shout out to Baylor. Shout out to the coach, man. He built up a nice little program over there the last couple of years, and he a real coach. And I like what they building. T, you did call it, so I'll give you that.
T was on the money on this one, man. Bryce, would you say that was more good Baylor or bad Gonzaga?
Yeah, this is tough. This is a tough one because I think it does go a little bit both ways. But it's hard for me to say to take anything away from Baylor and to just say it was bad Gonzaga. Gonzaga definitely was not the team we had seen all season though. There's no question. They were not the team we saw against UCLA. They were not the team we saw during the run in that tournament. And to me, that is no question about it. But Baylor, they hung their hats on their defense, and their defense showed up for sure. I think there was some critical coaching errors made on Gonzaga's part. I thought when Jalen Suggs got the 2 early fouls, thought it was a big mistake to pull him. I thought as soon as they pulled Jalen Suggs early, I mean, he didn't play for about an 8 minute stretch in that first half. Maybe it was a little shorter than that, but it was a very long time without their best player on the floor. And it was clear that he was the only player on the floor that could match Baylor's athleticism. As soon as they pulled him, it seemed like the rest of the team kind of panicked. So I think that was the biggest coaching mistake of that game. And I do think if Mark Few had to do that one over, he would have left Jalen Suggs in the game, let him play it out. Because you saw when Baylor's guys, when their big men got in foul trouble, Drew left them in. He didn't pull anybody. Their big Thamba got in foul trouble early, ended up fouling out of the game. But the game was already out of reach by the time he fouled out because they stuck with their guys. I think that if I was Few in that situation, I would have stuck with my guy a little bit longer.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I mean, it's the championship game. You got to stick with them. But I mean, let's just give a round of applause to T, man. Like he called it. I can't lie. I had Gonzaga in the tourney, so I'm a little bit disappointed. But for me, the best moment came in the game before when Suggs hit that shot. I think that was the best, most memorable moment of the entire tournament. And it kind of leads me to my next question, which is, despite this loss, who would you say had the better season overall? Because this is the only loss for Gonzaga. They were undefeated leading up to this. So, I mean, when we look back on this in a few years, is Baylor going to be the more memorable team, or are we still going to look at Gonzaga as one of the better college teams?
Nobody remembers the losers, bro. Nobody remembers the losers. That's the bottom line. So, great season, but nobody talks about the losers, unfortunately, unless you're local. Like when St. Joe's had that wonderful season with Jameer Nelson and them. Great run, but they didn't win it. So, yeah, I'm going to forget all about it.
Scruff has a point. And I don't want to take all the credit for predicting Baylor. You know what I'm saying? I'm doing a lot of gloating right now, but I studied the ancient astrologies, man. The Mercury was in the retro Gatorade and all that. I got my crystal ball. You know what I'm saying? I just knew what it was. But to answer your question, though, I think it's going to come down to what these guys do at the next level. Gonzaga has 3 guys, potentially 4 that can go to the next level. And what these guys do in the pro. If Kispert and Suggs turn out to be all-stars, then you're always going to remember that college team, that run, that team that was almost there. But if Mitchell and Butler and maybe T go to the league and they're all-stars, you're going to remember that team. So I really think it comes down to what happens. I know I remember that D-Wade Marquette team just because of D-Wade. So it's going to come down to what happens in the future. I mean, I could tell you, but you're going to have to pay me for the next prediction.
Hey man, we're going to have to check your batting average on those predictions, man. I don't know how efficient you are with the calls, but yeah, you got
Barry
this one.
Bonds.
I'm a little salty because I think I finished second place, so y'all can hear the saltiness in my voice. But
Barry Bonds is right.
I think when it comes to like what team will remember more, I think you definitely gonna remember the winners more. I mean, if we look back at the season, Baylor was on pace to be undefeated too. These teams were on pace to meet in the championship, both being undefeated. The COVID layoff kind of threw Baylor off track. Without that, it was a good chance we're talking about another undefeated team for the first time in 35 years, whatever it is. I also think that Gonzaga's dogs really didn't show up to play last night. Kispert, these guys this is a first round draft grade on them. Ayayi, another first round grade. I mean, Suggs showed up, don't get me wrong, but like I said, he didn't even play enough to really have the impact he could have. But Baylor, on the other hand, it seemed like those guys rose their stock. Everybody on Baylor's squad seemed like they rose their stock. I think coming into the tournament, they only had one guy that was like a solidified first round grade in Butler. But now we're talking about Mitchell, we're talking about Butler, Teague, even maybe one of those big men make it. So I think at the end of the day, we definitely gonna remember this Butler team a lot more than we remember Gonzaga.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with that. G mentioned it in the comments. He said, Baylor never even lost the lead. So I think it's also about the way that they won. It was really impressive.